The Echo from Above, Part 1. The night was still, the kind of quiet that presses against your ears when Mark last saw Lena. They'd been stargazing in the field behind his house, lying on a blanket, her laughter cutting through the cricket hum. Then the sky split, a blinding flash of light, jagged and blue, streaking from nowhere. Lena sat up, squinting, and before Mark could blink, a silhouette loomed above, sharp, angular, humming with a sound that rattled his teeth. She screamed once, sharp and short, her body lifting off the ground, arms flailing as the light swallowed her. He lunged, but the air burned his hands, and she was gone up, into the glow, the hum fading into silence. The stars blinked back to normal, cold and distant, leaving him alone with the echo of her cry. Sleep didn't come that night, or the nights after. The police searched, found nothing, no tracks, no signs, just his story they didn't believe. Mark stayed in the house, staring at the field, the sky, waiting for something, anything. A year passed, the memory a scar, until one evening the doorbell rang. He opened it, and there she was, Lena, standing on the porch, her smile soft, her eyes catching the dusk light. "Hey," she said, her voice bright, familiar, but it hit his ears late, like a recording out of sync. He froze, his pulse hammering. She laughed, stepping inside, her movements sharp, mechanical, like a doll on strings. The air around her felt wrong, too still, and the stars outside flickered not randomly, but in a pattern too fast to follow. She acted normal, sat on the couch, asked about his day, laughed at nothing, but her hands twitched, fingers bending. Too far before snapping back, Mark stammered, "Where were you?" She tilted her head, her smile unchanged, and said, "Out there," her voice echoing slightly, as if it came from above her. He pressed, but she giggled, high, sharp, delayed, and the room chilled, the lights dimming for a heartbeat. Sleep came slow, her laughter looping in his mind. He dreamed of lights pulsing in the sky, her silhouette swaying, her voice calling, distant, hollow. He jolted awake, the clock reading 1:11 a.m., and found her standing by the window, staring up, her head cocked, her eyes glinting with something not hers. The stars pulsed faster, and a faint hum vibrated the glass. The next day, she was the same, too normal, too bright, cooking breakfast, humming a tune that lagged behind her lips. But her movements jerked, her head snapping to angles no one should hold, then resetting with a smile. Mark watched, dread pooling in his gut. She didn't remember the light, the scream, the year gone. "I'm fine," she said, her voice trailing a second late, her eyes darting to the ceiling before locking on him. The stars outside flickered again that night, sharper, and the hum returned, not loud, but deep, threading through the walls. He locked himself in the bathroom, hands shaking, searching online old forums about abductions. One post sticking, they send them back, but not whole. Watch the sky. The hum grew, and he heard her laugh, sharp, off time outside the door. That evening, her voice shifted, bright but hollow, like it bounced from somewhere else. She stood in the kitchen, staring at nothing, her fingers twitching faster, her head jerking side to side. "Mark," she said, her smile stretching, her eyes glinting with that strange light. "It's nice here." The delay grew, her words lagging, her laugh echoing from the ceiling. Sleep came unbidden, and he saw her in the sky, swaying in the light, her eyes blank, her laughter ringing from above. He woke gasping, the clock stuck at 1:11 a.m. Lena beside him, he hadn't heard her move, her head cocked, her smile fixed, the hum pulsing through her frame. The house felt smaller, the air heavier, as if she brought something with her, not her. But whatever sent her back. He tried calling friends, but the phone crackled, the hum drowning the line. The stars outside pulsed in rhythm to perfect, too alive, and her laughter looped, always late, always wrong. She didn't sleep, didn't eat, just stood, smiled, twitched, her eyes flicking upward. Mark turned away, but the window caught her reflection, head cocked, eyes glinting, the stars behind her blinking faster. The forum warning burned in his mind. Watch the sky. Sleep eluded him, the hum a drone, her laughter a jagged edge, high, delayed, endless. He dreamed, or didn't, of her swaying in the light. Mark, her voice hollow, her silhouette framed by pulsing stars, their pattern tightening around him. He woke to the hum, the clock frozen, Lena nearer, her head jerking, her smile stretching, the stars outside alive with intent. The house trembled, the hum a low storm, her laughter insistent, lagging, echoing, wrong. He didn't want to, didn't dare, but his eyes met hers, glinting, empty, endless, the hum spiking, the stars waiting still, silent, watching. The night stretched on, the stars glow bending the light, twisting it into a pattern that pulsed with the hum. Her laughter looped sharp, off time filling the house, threading through the walls, the floor, the air. Mark tried to scream, but the sound was swallowed, the hum spiking, the stars tightening their grip, their rhythm, a weight that crushed his lungs. The house wasn't his anymore, it belonged to Lena, to the thing that sent her, to the sky that watched, and he was its captive, trapped by a girl he couldn't trust, a hum he couldn't silence. Part 2. The house had become a cage under the thing that were Lena's face, its too bright smile a mask for a terror that clawed at Mark's every breath. The hum wasn't just a sound anymore, it was a presence, a low drone that pulls through the walls, the floor, his skull, a vibration that sank into his bones, his chest, his soul, tugging at him with every flicker. The clock hadn't moved past 1:11 a.m. since she'd returned, its digits flickering like a dying spark, a cruel mockery of time that no longer held. Lena stood in the living room, her head cocked at an angle to sharp, her eyes glinting with a light that wasn't hers. Her laughter ringing high, sharp, delayed, echoing from the ceiling before her lips even moved. The stars outside pulsed faster, their pattern tightening, alive with a rhythm that matched the hum. Sleep was a distant memory, replaced by a haze where the hum ruled. Mark had tried to reach her, called her name, grabbed her arm, but her head snapped sideways, her fingers twitched too fast, and her voice hit late. "I'm fine." Bright but hollow, bouncing from above. She laughed again, the sound lagging, her eyes darting to the sky before locking on him, glinting with that strange, cold light. The air around her thickened, the lights dimming in sync with her twitches. Sleep came unbidden, dragging him under, and he saw her in the sky swaying in the light, her laughter echoing from above, her silhouette framed by stars that pulsed too fast. He woke gasping, the clock still at 1:11 a.m. Lena outside his door, he hadn't heard her move, the hum roaring, her smile fixed in the dark. The house trembled, her laughter a jagged edge, sharp, off time, relentless. Mark tried to call for help again, but the phone crackled, the hum drowning every signal. Lena didn't sit, didn't rest, just stood, her head jerking, her fingers bending too far, then snapping back with a smile. He begged her to explain where she'd been, what happened, but her head cocked further, her laughter echoing from the walls, her voice trailing, "Out there." The stars outside pulsed sharper, their light bending through the windows, not random, but deliberate, a pattern that tightened with every twitch of her hands. The hum grew bolder, threading through the house, the air, his own breath, her eyes glinting brighter, her movements more erratic. The hum turned unbearable that night, pulsing through the house like a storm, her laughter a demand, lagging, echoing, wrong. She stood in the hallway, her head cocked afar, her jerky steps uneven, the stars outside pulsing in rhythm with her twitches. Mark shouted her name, but her eyes locked on him, glinting, empty, her smile stretching too wide, her voice hitting late. "It's nice here." The delay grew, her words lagging seconds behind, her laughter bouncing from the ceiling, the walls, the sky. The room chilled, the lights flickering with her movements, and the hum spiked deep, relentless, rattling the glass. Mark stumbled back, but the house pulsed, the stars' light twisting into a glow that synced with her laughter. Sleep swallowed him, or didn't he? Saw her in the sky, swaying in the light, her laughter echoing from above, her eyes glinting, her silhouette sharp against pulsing stars, their rhythm tightening around him. He woke to the hum, the clock frozen, Lena closer, her head jerking, her smile wider, the stars outside alive with intent. The glow of her eyes burned brighter, not eyes, but mirrors reflecting not him but the sky, pulsing, endless, alive, watching where he stood, laughing where he was silent, high, sharp, delayed. The house was alive with it, the hum pulsed. In the pipes, the walls, the air, a drone that wouldn't rest. Mark tried to scream, but his voice cracked, the hum swallowing it, a note in its rhythm, an echo in its storm. Lena moved jerky, unnatural, her head cocking too far, her smile stretching, the hum roaring through her frame. Mark, her voice lagging, echoing from above. He grabbed a chair, barricading the door, but the windows glowed, the stars pulsing faster, their light bending through the glass, their rhythm threading through his skull. The night stretched on, the hum a roar that drowned his thoughts. Lena inches from him, beside him, her head jerking, her laughter looping sharp. Off time, her eyes glinting with a light that wasn't hers, the stars tightening their grip. The air thickened, the hum a weight that pressed against his lungs, his mind, his soul. Lena stood in the kitchen, her fingers twitching faster, her head snapping side to side, her laughter echoing from the ceiling louder, sharper wrong. The stars outside pulsed in sync to perfect, too alive, their light bending the room, twisting it into a cage that matched her rhythm. Mark sank to the floor, hands trembling, the hum searing his vision, the house alive with her presence, her laughter looping from above, her eyes glinting from every angle. The hum was his heartbeat, the stars his pulse, her laughter his mirror. He didn't know where he ended and she began. The room darkened, the hum a thread in the silence. Lena closer, her head cocked cold, relentless, alive. Mark didn't remember sleeping, didn't remember waking, but the hum knew, threading her laughter through the drone, pulling him deeper. Her eyes glinted in his vision, pulsing with the stars, echoing with the sky, her laughter a chant he couldn't silence. High, sharp, delayed. The stars pulsed one final time, fast, tight, endless, the hum spiking, her smile stretching, the sky watching still, silent, claiming. Mark tried to fight, to run, but the doors buzzed cold, alive, the hum roaring, her laughter sharper, her head jerking in time with the stars, their light threading through his skull. The house wasn't his anymore, it belonged to Lena, to the thing that sent her, to the sky that pulsed, and he was its captive, trapped in a glow he couldn't close, a hum he couldn't silence. Part 3. The house had crumbled beneath the thing that were Lena's face, its too bright smile a void that devoured Mark's every shred of self. The hum wasn't just a sound, it was him, a relentless drone that pulls through his veins, his bones, his soul, a vibration so deep it erased all traces of who he'd been. The clock flickered at 1:11 a.m., its digits trembling like a spark. On the edge, a cruel anchor in a world that no longer existed. Lena stood in the center of the room, her head cocked afar, her eyes glinting with a light that wasn't hers, sharp, endless, alive, her laughter ringing high, sharp, delayed, echoing from the ceiling, the walls, the sky. Before her lips even twitched, the stars outside pulsed tighter, their pattern a cage, alive with a rhythm that claimed the house. Sleep was a lost dream. The boundary between waking and nightmare had shattered under Lena's haunting pulse. Mark hadn't slept, or had he? But the hum didn't care, dragging him under with its rhythm, its drone a chain that bound his every breath. She didn't stand still anymore, she moved jerky, unnatural, her head snapping to fast, her fingers bending to far, her laughter lagging behind, echoing from above. The air thickened with it, not her, but the thing that sent her, watching, waiting, pulsing with the stars. Mark tried to scream her name, but his voice cracked, the hum swallowing it, her head jerking toward him, eyes glinting, smile stretching, her voice hitting late. Mark. Hollow, distant from the sky, the hum grew sharper, its drone a blade that sliced through his will, his sanity, his self. He'd tried to fight, smash the windows, burn the curtains, but the glass pulsed, the ashes glowed with her laughter high, sharp, delayed, reinstalling itself in every crack he made. Lena stood within reach now, beside him, around him, her movements erratic, her head cocking to far, her laughter a scream beneath the drone. Mark clawed at the floor, desperate for escape, but it pulls back cold, alive, the hum threading through his skull, her laughter, her rhythm, her stars. The house trembled, the hum a storm that shook the void, her laughter a vow lagging, echoing, relentless. She moved closer, her steps jerky, her fingers twitching, her eyes locked on him, glinting with that cold, endless light, her smile stretching beyond her face. Mark shouted, but her head snapped sideways, her voice trailing. It's nice here. The delay stretching, her laughter bouncing from the sky, the walls, the air. The stars outside pulsed faster, their light bending through the house, their rhythm tightening, alive with intent. The hum roared deep, unyielding, rattling his bones, her eyes reflecting not him but them, pulsing, watching, claiming. Sleep crashed over him, or didn't he? Saw her in the sky, swaying in the light, her laughter echoing from above, her silhouette sharp against stars that pulsed to tight, their rhythm wrapping around him. He woke gasping, or didn't? The clock dead. Lena closer, her head jerking, her smile wider, the stars outside alive with a glow that wasn't theirs. Her eyes burned, not eyes, but mirrors reflecting not him but the sky, endless, pulsing, alive, watching where he stood, laughing where he was silent, high, sharp, delayed. The house was alive with it, the hum pulsed in the pipes, the walls, the air, a drone that wouldn't rest, wouldn't fade, wouldn't let go. Mark tried to scream, But his voice was hers, cracking with the hum, echoing with her laughter, a note in its rhythm, a sound in its storm. Lena's head jerked to fast, too wrong, her smile stretching, the hum roaring through her frame. Mark, her voice lagging, bouncing from above. He stumbled to the bathroom, slamming the door, but the mirror glowed, her eyes glinting, her laughter echoing, the stars pulsing behind the glass. The night stretched on, the hum a roar that drowned his thoughts. Lena beside him, around him, her head cocking, her laughter looping sharp, off time, her eyes glinting with a light that wasn't hers, the stars tightening their grip. The air turned unbearable, the hum a weight that crushed his lungs, his mind, his soul. Lena stood in the hallway, her fingers twitching faster, her head snapping side to side, her laughter echoing from the ceiling, louder, sharper, wrong. The stars outside pulsed in sync to perfect, too alive, their light bending the house, twisting it into a prison that matched her rhythm. Mark sank to his knees, hands trembling, the hum searing his vision, the house alive with her presence, her laughter looping from above, her eyes glinting from every surface. The hum was his heartbeat, the stars his pulse, her laughter his echo. He didn't know where he ended and she began. The house plunged into a darkness that wasn't absence but presence, a void that pulsed with the hum, its edges brushing his skin, its weight erasing his spirit. Mark tried to run, but his legs froze locked in her rhythm, rooted by a pulse that wasn't his. Her eyes burned through him, not eyes, but mirrors, and he saw not himself but the sky, his form flickering, breaking, dissolving into the hum, her laughter echoing, her rhythm claiming. Her fingers brushed his face, cold, erratic, alive, the hum roaring, her laughter a noose, high, sharp, delayed. Sleep was her, or he was her. He saw the sky, Mark, her silhouette swaying, her laughter echoing from above, her rhythm, his tomb. The hum roared from his throat, his lungs, his soul, a drone that consumed him, rewrote him, owned him. He woke, or didn't, the clock dead, Lena him, her head jerking, her smile endless, the stars pulsing through him, her laughter a chant he couldn't stop, lagging, echoing, wrong. The hum pulsed Mark, her eyes glinting, the stars watching, waiting, claiming a gaze he couldn't escape, a hum he couldn't silence. The house stilled, the hum a low thread, Lena standing, watching, waiting. Mark didn't know if he stood or sank, didn't know if he breathed or hummed, but she knew, threading her laughter through the drone, stitching him into its abyss. The stars were him, over him, around him, through him, their rhythm eternal, cold, alive, pulsing, her laughter a pulse he couldn't break. The house was hers, the skies, the hums, Lena's, and he was hers, a flicker in the glow, an echo in the void, a soul swaying back from a light that wouldn't fade. The night stretched on, the stars pulse, a hum on the air, sharp, delayed, and then silence, a silence that wasn't empty but alive, waiting, watching. Mark didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't need to, because he wasn't Mark anymore. He was hers, a hum in the sky, a laugh in the stars, an echo staring back from a girl that wouldn't stop, an endless rhythm he couldn't escape, a sound he couldn't silence. Part 4. The house had been obliterated by the thing that were Lena's face, its too bright smile, a void that swallowed Mark's every fragment of self. The hum wasn't a sound anymore, it was him, a ceaseless roar that pulls through his veins, his bones, his soul, a vibration so deep it erased all traces of who he'd once been. The clock flickered faintly at 1:11 a.m., its digits a dying spark in a reality that had long since collapsed, a cruel echo of a time he couldn't reclaim. Lena stood in the heart of the house, her head cocked afar, her eyes glinting with a light that wasn't hers, sharp, endless, alive, her laughter ringing high, sharp, delayed, echoing from the ceiling, the walls, the sky. Before her lips even twitched, casting a glow that consumed the space, twisting it into a prison of stars and sound. Sleep and waking had fused into one, an endless nightmare where the hum reigned supreme. Mark didn't know if he stood or fell, didn't know if he breathed or pulsed, but Lena knew, pulling him under with her rhythm, her drone a chain that owned his every shudder. She moved jerky, unnatural, her head snapping to fast, her fingers bending to far, her laughter lagging behind, echoing from above. The air wasn't air anymore, it was them. The stars, the hum pulsing with her rhythm, their glow stark against the walls, their pattern tightening beyond the edges of sight. They didn't fade, didn't rest, their weight a cold abyss, a force that crushed his chest, her laughter threading through the drone, sharp, off time, relentless. Her voice was a scream now, its echo a blade that sliced through his mind, his will, his essence, high, sharp, delayed, lagging from the sky. Mark, he'd tried to resist, smashed every window, burned every door, but the glass pulsed. The ashes glowed with her laughter reinstalling itself in every crack he made. Lena stood within him, beside him, around him, through him, her movements erratic, her head cocking to far, her laughter a roar that drowned his thoughts. He clawed at his skin, desperate for something real, but the hum pulsed beneath his flesh, a rhythm that answered only to her, high, sharp, delayed. The house trembled, the hum a tempest that shook the void, her laughter a vow lagging, echoing, endless. She moved closer, her steps jerky, her fingers twitching, her eyes locked on him, glinting with that cold, endless light, her smile stretching beyond her face. The stars outside pulsed faster, their light bending through the house, their rhythm tightening, alive with intent. Mark shouted, but his voice was hers, cracking with the hum, echoing with her laughter, her head snapping sideways, her voice trailing. Mark. The delay stretching, her laughter bouncing from the sky, the walls, the air. The hum roared deep, unyielding, rattling his bones, her eyes reflecting not him but them, pulsing, watching, claiming. Sleep swallowed him or never left. He saw her in the sky, swaying in the light. Mark, her laughter echoing from above, her silhouette sharp against stars that pulsed tight, their rhythm wrapping around him. He woke or didn't, the clock dead, Lena inside him, her head jerking, her smile endless, the stars pulsing through him, their glow sinking into his soul. Her eyes burned, not eyes, but mirrors reflecting not him but the sky. Lives he'd never lived, faces he'd never known, each one pulsing, laughing his name, pulling him into their abyss, high, sharp, delayed. The house was the hum, the walls breathed it, the floors pulsed it, the air sang it, a drone that wouldn't rest, wouldn't fade, wouldn't release him. Mark tried to scream, but his voice was theirs, cracking with the hum, echoing with her laughter, a note in its rhythm, a sound in its storm. Lena's head jerked to fast, too wrong, her smile stretching, the hum roaring through her frame. Mark, her voice lagging, bouncing from above. The stars pulsed tighter to perfect, too alive, their light bending the house, twisting it into a prison that matched her rhythm, her fingers brushing his eyes, his throat cold, erratic, claiming. The hum seared into his mind, a glow that didn't illuminate but consumed, its roar a scream that annihilated his thoughts. Lena was him, beside him, around him, through him, her head cocking, her laughter echoing, her presence a cold that devoured his nerves. The house trembled, the stars a hurricane pulsing, tightening, endless. He saw them, not stars but eyes, endless loops of light. Lena swaying in the sky, a man staring into nothing, figures pulsing in a void that wasn't there. Each one laughed his name, a call, a claim, a curse pulling him into their eternity. The house plunged into a darkness that wasn't absence but presence, a void that pulsed with the hum, its edges brushing his skin, its weight erasing his spirit. Mark tried to run, but his legs were theirs, locked in her rhythm, rooted by a pulse that wasn't his. Her eyes burned through him, not eyes, but mirrors, and he saw not himself but them, his form flickering, breaking, dissolving into the hum, her laughter echoing, her rhythm claiming. Her fingers brushed his face, cold, relentless, alive, the hum roaring, her laughter a noose, high, sharp, delayed. Sleep was them or he was them. He saw the sky. Mark, Lena his mirror, her fingers on his wrists, his neck, her rhythm, his tomb. The hum roared from his throat, his lungs, his soul, a drone that consumed him, rewrote him, owned him. He woke or didn't, the clock dead, Lena him, her head jerking, her smile endless, the stars pulsing through him, her laughter a chant he couldn't stop, lagging, echoing, wrong. The hum pulsed one final time, fast, tight, endless, her eyes glinting, the stars watching, waiting, claiming, a gaze he couldn't escape, a hum he couldn't silence. Days passed or didn't. The house stood empty, dust settling on the floor, the walls silent but alive. A neighbor knocked, the door creaking open to stillness. A photo lay in the dust, Mark and Lena, smiling, its frame humming faintly, a laughter on the air, high, sharp, delayed. The neighbor stared, curious, and the window glowed, a face not hers, eyes glinting, laughter echoing. Hey, watching. The neighbor froze, the hum threading through the silence, her laughter lagging from the sky. The stars pulsed sharp, tight, alive, the hum growing, her voice a promise delayed, echoing, wrong. The cycle turned, the sky reaching, the hum claiming. The house a trap for another soul to fade into its endless pulse, a laughter that wouldn't end. Mark was gone, not gone, but theirs trapped in the sky, a hum in the void, an echo swaying back. The house settled, the glow dimmed, but the hum lingered a thread in the silence, searching for its next voice. The stars remained, unseen but alive, their rhythm a call for someone new to look, to hear, to become an echo from above forever.